The Ontario Public School Boards Association represents English language publicly funded district school boards and public school authorities across Ontario, which together serve more than 1.3 million public elementary and secondary students. The association advocates on behalf of the best interests and needs of the public school system in Ontario. This short video highlights the main points from the document Transitioning from the COVID-19 School Experience, and can be found on the Ontario Public School Boards Association website. Since first declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization in March 2020, COVID-19 has been and continues to be one of the great social and economic disruptors of our time, with widespread impact on one of society's most traditional institutions, school. Because of this health emergency, school had to change in dramatic, uncharted ways that over time revealed two compelling realities. One, that many students did not find success in remote forms of learning, and two, that some new and innovative practices in teaching and leadership have emerged that should be preserved and implemented on a broader scale post-pandemic. These realities quickly provoked conversation about the eventual return to school and an opportunity to act on this once-in-a-lifetime chance to reset how we go about education. Simply going back to what was done previously would sidestep an opportunity to explicitly redress systemic barriers to equitable educational outcomes and to continue to build on pedagogical and administrative innovation. So what happened to school during the pandemic? The Ontario Public School Boards Association embarked on a process to gather information directly from public school boards and emerging studies relating COVID-19 to school and education. Observations from school boards showed that educators at all levels rallied to plan, create, and implement dramatically different learning conditions for students. Given the magnitude of this uncharted territory, members of the education community put forward significant time, energy, and effort to support student achievement and well-being. For varying periods of time, remote learning was the only available learning model for students of all ages, kindergarten through grade 12. Concerns quickly emerged about inequitable access for all outcomes, as well as student well-being. For example, not all families had access to reliable, affordable internet services and sufficient number of digital devices for students and parents or guardians living in the household. With greatly reduced access to direct teacher support, many students required consistent alternative adult support, for example from older siblings and/or parents and guardians, in order to engage meaningfully in remote learning. Some students struggle to maintain engagement during synchronous learning sessions. School boards have followed up with increasing numbers of students who no longer attend school, either through remote or in-person learning models. Increasing numbers of students reported feeling isolation, stress, worry, boredom, and loneliness associated with the pandemic. Research to date has centered on student achievement, teaching, and mental health and well-being. Student achievement. Some students have responded positively to online learning, particularly the flexibility for students in managing their workload. However, there's increasing concern over degrees of student engagement. Remote learning negatively affected some students more than others, especially those from some racialized and economically insecure communities, and diminished learning for many students overall. Teaching. Teaching has had to change during remote learning, particularly in the pace of instruction, teaching strategies, techniques to engage students, and efforts to support student learning differences. Mental health and well-being. During the pandemic, there has been an increase in concern related to students' mental health and well-being. Schools provide a range of supports and services that protect student wellness, such as caring and responsive adults, predictable structure and routine, and physical activity. Without these, researchers and educators are concerned about the absence of these protections when schools switch to remote learning over long periods of time. What should we be paying attention to? What should our priorities be during the transition back to school? Number 1, attend to the mental health of all students. Number 2, explore the expansion of online learning opportunities. Number 3, study the possible continuation of regulatory changes and innovative administrative practices adopted during the pandemic. Number 4, monitor the outcomes of new approaches and make adaptations as required. The importance of in-person and community schools have never been so strongly recognized. But how can school be reimagined in the years beyond COVID-19 to optimize the school experience for all students? Let's take time now as school prepares for life after the pandemic. We have a chance to make things better. This image is from the discussion paper and shows the various elements: school culture, responsive pedagogies, and online and in-person learning formats, which are needed to strike the right balance to optimize student learning, engagement, and well-being when transitioning from the COVID-19 school experience. This image recognizes the importance of the community school as central in continuing to provide a safe, welcoming environment to support student learning, mental health, and well-being. Here's a brief explanation of these 3 elements with examples of areas of focus for schools and school boards beyond the COVID-19 school experience. School culture. School culture is foundational. It represents the core beliefs and values that drive how schools function and ultimately determines the level of student and family engagement. Some areas of focus for schools and school boards: balancing curricular expectations with integrated focus on mental health and well-being, taking responsibility for addressing inequitable student outcomes, anchoring student learning in community schools. Responsive pedagogy. This refers to a mindset that informs instructional practice, where students' identity and lived experiences are used to actively motivate and engage students in the curriculum. Some areas of focus. Students are provided with choice, pathway options, and flexibility based on their personal strengths and needs. Instruction and assessment are grounded in an equity, anti-oppression, and social justice stance. Land-based learning and outdoor and experiential learning are strongly promoted. Online and in-person learning formats. Learning during the pandemic showed that remote learning formats do not work for all students. This observation provided important insight into more meaningful online learning in the future. Finding an appropriate balance between in-person learning classes and district online mandatory credits will be essential in the motivation, engagement, and achievement for each and every student. Some areas of focus. Include models of blended learning, online and in-person, in a range of curriculum areas. Use models of blended learning to facilitate self-paced learning pathways that respond to students' individual interests and aspirations. What other perspectives are important? Emergency remote learning created troubling trends regarding disparity between those able to profit by this learning format and those who experience negative social, emotional, and academic challenges when unable to attend school in person. The transition to school post-COVID will require a concentrated, collaborative effort to strike the right balance between all elements known to support student achievement and well-being. This rare once-in-a-lifetime chance to reset how we go about school, a critical moment that needs everyone's voice: students, educators, parents, trustees, everyone in our school communities. This is not the time to simply go back to what was done previously, but to challenge our collective selves to reimagine what school could become, to ensure that each and every student in our care thrives in school and in life. You are invited to add your voice and perspective through a short, anonymous, and voluntary survey that the Ontario Public School Boards Association has posted here. In this survey, you will be asked to share some of your thoughts about learning online during the COVID-19 pandemic and the transition to post-pandemic school and learning environment. Your input into this survey will be used to inform our advocacy to the provincial government throughout the 2021-2022 school year and beyond. To learn more about our association, visit www.opsba.org.